A customer dropped this off. It's his daughter's little toy to go ripping around on, but obviously a problem back here. The bearing carrier flanges all broke off, which is not allowing him to adjust the chain tension with these guys here. So that's an issue. So I don't know if she was doing triple indies off a whoop section or what, but we'll get it back in shape so she can rip it around some more. Okay, so the next step would be is you have to draw this thing up to make another part. So just kind of piecing these back together however they may go, kind of holding them in place as best I can to get an accurate measurement. Just going to use these guys to measure it up, draw it on Fusion 360. I'll extrude that drawing, make a cut file, send it over to the plasma. Hopefully I can find some material that's a little bit thicker. This is measuring just under 1/8 of an inch. If I can have something a little bit thicker, it would be nicer. Put some more weld on it, and that should be the fix. By the way, if you have these and you don't know, they make excellent splinter removers. Get those tiny, tiny little metal splinters in your fingers that drive you nuts. These are the guys. Sometimes you can't grab them with tweezers. It's a multi-tool, I guess, at this point. Alright, so we got our parts here that lay on the table to a part that's on the computer. It's drawn up, extruded, cut file was made. I send that over to the plasma and we'll get cutting. Well, okay. The X-axis bound up on me for some reason, so let's try this again. Here we go. Alright, so I cut one. There it is right there. And it's got a little bit of taper on this large diameter here. So it's barely going on. But I think I'll take some down around the inside there. I don't want it too loose and have it be too sloppy. I'd rather take a little bit of material off the flange. Maybe I'll cut another one, just go, even if I went 5 thousandths bigger, it might make a difference. So, I'll try one just a little bit bigger and see if it fits better. But as far as dimensions, sizing, I think it looks pretty close. Right? So I'll cut another one, see how that one cuts. And then we'll clean all the paint off this, get it ready to weld. I wind up using some 3/16 material. I didn't have any 1/8, enough to cut 2 of these out actually. So I had a piece of 3/16 from another job and had some little areas I can cut out. But that first cut was interesting. Of course it binds up when I'm trying to take a video. That's okay, that's life. This is how it goes. Not so bad, just a little bit of taper in there and fits on there. My holes are lined up pretty good. I'll probably go back and punch those out with a carbide end mill before I send it. And if you cut holes like this on plasma, the inside gets hardened. And if you use drill bits, you'll smoke your drill bits sometimes. So what you can do is, if you do use a plasma that can't cut a perfect hole, you can either pierce that hole to give you a location, you can follow up with the drill, or you just leave them out. If you're not doing a whole bunch of stuff, I could have just left these 2 bolt holes out and just punched them out in the mill, just with a carbide end mill, just plunge down and knock them out, or you can do it with a drill, either way. But it does get hardened. This whole edge gets hardened, so you definitely smoke your drill bits if you try to cut through that. All right, since I'm going to TIG weld these on there because I like TIG welding, you got to get the mill scale off. I have trust issues with people who don't take the mill scale off before they TIG weld something, because to me that's not really metal, and it gets all that crap in your weld, and why would you want that? Just take the time, get some nice clean metal, have a better weld. That's it. Now if you've got time and you've got all these parts with the mill scale on it, throw them in some vinegar, a bucket, leave them in there overnight. The next day you come in, rinse them off with water, it's gone. I'm welding these on today, so I can't wait till tomorrow. But I do that from time to time. If I have a bunch of small parts that I need to weld or mess around with, I'll just throw them in a bucket of vinegar before I leave the shop. Come back in the morning, rinse them off in the sink, and done deal. It's nice and clean, it's ready to go. All right, so got that thing all cleaned up, got all the paint off of it, took the old welds off, but before I did that, I get a center punch and mark locations. It's like the easiest thing to do. That way it's a marker, it gets wiped off and it disappears, you sand it off, you grind it off. So what I did is I made a little tiny witness mark, I'm not sure if you could even see that, with a center punch of where that hole is on that flange. So if I know I position one hole where that center punch mark is 180 degrees, the other hole is going to be there. So I have the flanges bolted on the chassis right now. So I'm just going to pull this line across, just going to mark it with my fabricator crayon. And a super easy way to transfer something down a cylinder is a piece of angle. Lay that on there, fits itself right inside there, and then you can draw a line straight down like that. Boom, it'll go right up the center of that tube. Just something super easy and simple. Angle iron and round, nest right inside there perfectly, done deal. All right, so I had the flanges bolted up to the frame. I put this back in there, made sure everything was lined up. I checked the axle, made sure it was centered up, scratched some lines on here so I knew where the flanges had to be. There was a couple of spacers in between the chassis mount or the swing arm mount there and this, which I don't know why. It's probably why it broke. It was just flexing too much. So I got rid of those spacers, and now these sit flat up against the swing arm in there. It's still able to rotate to adjust the tension on the chain, and it still works. Now I'm not exactly sure why they had little bushings in there. So I tacked this side in place, and I'll tack the other side in place. I got this fixture block here. It's got a V cut in it. Makes it super convenient. I set that in there. I can push this against there. I know I'm pretty square. Plus I've got my scribe lines I can follow also. When you tack it, it's probably going to move, so just double check. Tack it in a handful of spots, and then move on from there. Alright, they are tacked on. Check it now, because you won't be happy with yourself if you weld this thing up completely and think you're set, and you put it on and something moved. So take the time now, so it'll take you a lot longer later to cut everything back apart and cut new flanges if you had to. So a little bit of prevention just by checking. Alright, it's ready to go. It's tacked up. Turn the welder on, set it to 121 gigawatts, so it should be enough. And just gonna start welding it up. I'm gonna tack it in a few more places, kind of where my extents of my weld are gonna be, so it doesn't shift the other way. Do that first, and then I'll run around there. I don't want to get it too hot, because I gotta make sure that those bearings still get pressed in. I don't want to mess with that whole area right there. I think I'm gonna come back in here and maybe do a couple little stitches on there and try not to burn that edge off. Okay, well, I decided just to do a second pass over what I had, and I think that's probably pretty good. I didn't want to mess around with this outside edge here because I still want the bearing to sit in there. So I'll let that cool down, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stick some paint on there while it's still hot, bake it on there a little bit. Well, it's all back together, as you can see. That's it. Threw some black paint on there while it was still hot. Kind of baked it on a little bit. Some new hardware in there too. It was kind of shot. All the threads are pulling off the other stuff, so material quality, it's not really there, I suppose. That's why the flanges broke off. That's it. Hopefully she can get back on it and cruise around the yard again. Of course I have to take it out for a test ride. Hopefully I won't hurt myself. Huh. Seems to work. Kind of fun to be a kid again. Chain staying on. It's moving me at a slow and steady pace. Alright, that was one small project there. Kind of saw the steps and what it took to get to that point there. Of course, it's nice to have the CNC plasma to knock those parts out, and you know that makes it much easier. But if you don't, there's still ways to do that. Whether you gotta punch a hole out with a hole saw, get on the bandsaw, cut the profile out, grind it. It's the old school way of still making stuff if you don't have all the fancy tools. Not that that's crazy fancy, but it's a huge help. So I'll be making more videos, working on projects, doing stuff in the shop here, kind of showing you what I've learned over, I don't know how many years I've been messing around making things. And yeah, just sharing what I know. I probably have tips, tricks, tools I use, tools you really don't need maybe. I mean, you can get a lot of stuff done with some pretty simple things. I used to tell guys, if you can figure out how to fix something or make something with a bunch of sticks and a bunch of rocks, then when you have all those tools handy, you have access to them, then it opens up a whole nother world of what you can do, which is pretty cool. But you can still learn with basic stuff. You don't need anything crazy. Start in a basement, work your way up to a garage, get a shop, and it's endless. You take it as far as you want. So I don't know what's going to come in the door next or what I'll get my hands on. And believe me, I got tons of stuff in my head that I want to make. So the most important thing is keep your mind busy, keep your hands dirty, and just keep plugging away.